Today we're going to talk about the DXY, the S&P 500, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Weapon, and also Kori. So I'm going to explain what the DXY is doing and why it's setting up for something that could give cryptos a lift here over the coming weeks, and also Weapon, which I think is about to break out this month. So stay tuned for all of that. But before we get started, guys, I do want to say if you are enjoying the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to get notifications, because I am releasing these videos every day, Monday through Friday. All right, with all that said, guys, let's start out with the DXY, which is pulling back this week. So we kind of had this little mini blow off top here up to this area, and this was very much a false break. So I mentioned this on Twitter. You can see where this 97 handle up here had served as resistance for the US dollar index. Now the market moved above it, but instead of finding support there, it closed right back below it. Hence, this was a false break, very similar to this down here. The last time it false broke below 95.50, we had a very sharp move up. Now we false broke above 97, had a very sharp move lower. Okay, so what does all this mean for the DXY and why does it matter? So first of all, I think that this is not a normal pullback in an uptrend. This to me seems very much like a capitulation move that you get at the top. And if we look at the weekly time frame, it does tend to signal that, because if you look back here in March of 2020, we had something very similar. So back here, this was a bearish engulfing week where notice how this red candle closed below the previous week's open. We're getting something very similar now. However, keep in mind that there's over 24 hours left in this week, so anything can happen. But at the moment, you can see on the weekly chart how this week is engulfing last week. Now, if this week closes below last week's open, which I believe is 95.63, then it would confirm the bearish engulfing week. And if it does that, then we could very well see the US dollar start to unravel, which would help to lift Bitcoin higher. Now, again, there is 24 hours left in the week, over 24 hours, so keep that in mind. This is not a finished pattern. Now, why does this matter? So I tweeted out a little bit ago. I wanted to cover this quickly in this video to show you why it matters. So this is showing the last couple of years between the DXY and Bitcoin. Remember, the DXY is the US dollar index, and it's in blue. So the DXY is in blue, Bitcoin is in orange. You can see where the DXY topped out in March of 2022, or I'm sorry, 2020. At the same time, Bitcoin bottomed in March of 2020. Okay, so the Bitcoin bottomed, DXY topped out. They moved inversely to each other. And when the DXY moved lower, that's when we saw that 1,500% rally from Bitcoin all the way just above $3,000, all the way up to $64,000. Now, it's also interesting to note that when the DXY bottomed in early 2021, that's when Bitcoin started to move sideways. This is one of the reasons why Bitcoin has struggled over the past 13 months, because the US dollar has been relatively strong. So if in the future, we don't know this yet, but if in the future the DXY starts to move lower later this year, then that could provide Bitcoin that room to move higher. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to rally 1,500% like it did before. I think that ship has sailed for now, but a move back toward all-time highs, potentially up toward $100,000, absolutely. Okay, it doesn't mean it's going to happen next week, but something to look forward to later this year, in my opinion. And that's especially true if the DXY does start to rotate lower, and that would start with this week closing below 95.63 to complete that weekly bearish engulfing candle. Now, one last thing here on the DXY. If we move to the daily chart, this is something I've talked about at length as well, where we have this series of higher highs and higher lows from the market. Okay, so ever since early 2021, that's been the case. So in order to reverse this, we need to see the market put in that first lower low followed by the lower high. The first lower low would come below 94.60. So that's why I keep talking about this level, that if we saw the DXY close below it, this would confirm that first lower low, and then we could get that first lower high for this trend to start reversing lower. But until we see it take out 94.60, this uptrend is very much intact. That said, again, I do think the DXY is going to start rotating lower later this year. So next up, I want to talk about the S&P 500. So not a crypto, but it is arguably the #1 risk asset. So it does matter when it comes to the overall market and whether we're in a risk on or risk off environment. All right, now the market did bounce aggressively from 42.40 recently. So no surprise there, because this has been a critical area in the market, and it's currently finding a little bit of resistance up here just above 4,500. All right, so if we were to see a rotation lower here, what I would expect from the market is to find support right here around 4,400, maybe just above it. All right, so these highs through here, if you look at the 4-hour time frame, you can really see it. So this region through here, right around 44.30, maybe 44.40. All right, I would expect to see a lot of buyers come out and defend this area. Now, again, why does this matter for crypto? It matters for crypto because over the past few weeks, Bitcoin has been following the S&P 500 because we have been in this little mini risk-off environment. So when you get a risk-off environment like this, assets tend to become a little bit more correlated, which is why we're seeing the Bitcoin follow the S&P 500. But again, down here toward 44.30, I would expect a bounce from there and then potentially a move up here toward this trend line that broke down earlier. Okay, so this trend line right here, up around 4,700, maybe just below it. I would expect a retest there. Now, what I expect, guys, for the coming year, and it's a very unpopular opinion at the moment, but I do think that, and again, I'm not talking about something that's going to happen next week, but I do think we are going to see one final move higher from risk assets into a blow off top, and then we get the big correction. I don't think we get the big correction right now from stocks because everybody is calling for it. Everybody's talking about big correction from stocks and crypto. I personally don't think we get it. I think that move happens sometime later in the year. And for right now, we are in an overall risk on environment. Yes, we've had a little bit of a pullback. The market has broken below this trend line up here. Okay, but we've seen situations like this before where the S&P 500 breaks through support. Everybody thinks it's over and then it's not. All right, I still think we get one more move higher later this year that also helps to lift the crypto market higher. But again, for right now, we could see the S&P 500 come down here, test this area before eventually moving higher to test $4,700. If it were to close below this level right through 44.30 or so, then we could see the market come down and test that $4,200 area. All right, so next up is Bitcoin, which is still just trading between 35,000 and 40 to 42,000. So until we get a breakout from one of these two levels, the market is just sideways. Now, we did get a little bit of a pullback here over the last 48 hours, which if you saw my last video was no surprise because I said that we had a market making higher highs and higher lows. However, the volume was starting to decrease. Anytime you see that volume decrease during an uptrend like this, it does indicate weakness because it's a lack of conviction, especially at the top. Okay, so volume equals conviction, and this recent move did not have it. Now, I know a lot of people are looking for a move down toward 30,000. In fact, even right now, everybody's talking about 20,000 Bitcoin. Look, I think that's premature. Could it happen? Yes. But I think that even talking about 30,000 is premature while the market is well above $35,000 to $36,000. This is going to be a critical support level. Only a close below 35,000 would open up the $30,000 area. Until that time, this area between 35 and 36 is support and 40 to 42 is resistance. Now, as I've said recently, the market would have to get above 42,000 to expose 45 to 46,000, followed by that $50,000 to $53,000 resistance area. But for now, guys, a very range-bound market. So just keep that in mind. Until Bitcoin gets above 42 or so, then this series of lower highs and lower lows is very much intact. And really only a close below 35,000 would open up the $30,000 area. Now, keep in mind that we could see one more retest of this area down here, potentially even a wick down here toward 33 or 34,000 before we finally get that move higher up into 42. But I continue to like the idea, guys, of a significant bounce here over the coming weeks. It's taken longer than I thought it would, but sometimes that's the way it goes. So I still like the idea of it holding above this area here. I don't think we see 30,000, but I could be wrong. All right, again, this just goes back to everybody is talking about 30,000. Everybody is calling for a move toward 30,000 Bitcoin and even 20,000. And typically the market does not give you what you want. So if retail is hoping for 30,000, my guess is we've probably put in a bottom down here. Maybe we retest this low, but my guess is the bottom is in, at least in the short term. So I could be wrong on that. And if I am, I'm perfectly okay with that. I'll come out and say I'm wrong. But for now, as long as the market is above 35,000 support on a daily closing basis, I like the idea of more consolidation here and eventually a breakout back above $42,000. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum next. So this market recently came off of this level down here around $2,200. So 2,200 was a factor back here. You can see it was support, resistance, and then support again here. Now, recently, this went unnoticed by most, but the market did close back inside of this descending channel. So at the moment, you can see where this level right down here around 2580 or so is serving as support. So the market closed back inside of this channel, and now the bottom of that channel is serving as support. Now at the same time though, we have a very significant resistance area between 2800 and 2900. Okay, so this is pretty much where the market sold off here recently. So it's going to be a big battle right now between this area just below 2600 and also resistance up around $2,800 to $2,900. So again, like Bitcoin, a very range-bound market. It's a little difficult to trade. If we were to see Ethereum close back below this level here where it's testing today, then 2200 would be next. Okay, this support down here. And if it were to close below that, so if we were to see Bitcoin take out 35,000 support and go down to test $30,000, then Ethereum could come down and test $2,000, which is the bottom of this equidistant ascending channel. All right, that's only if we see it close below this level here and also $2,200. Now, on the flip side, if we see it close above this area up here, right around $2,900, then 3,100 to 3,200 would be next, which is the top of this channel, and also a key area going back here to late 2021. So next up we have Weapon, which is a play to earn token that I have been discussing ever since December. So I was talking about it back here when it was right around $1. Now, obviously we had a dip after that. I didn't quite catch this dip here, but then we had a big move up toward about $4 to test the all-time high. Now, the market didn't quite break through that level. Since then, it has been consolidating. However, what I've said recently on YouTube is that I do think we are about to see a big breakout from this market simply because we're having this ascending channel form here ever since really the inception of this project. So you can see where we have so far higher lows into resistance. All right, so this is a bullish pattern right now. We also have a very similar breakout from a short-term descending trend line, and today retested that area right around $1.70. So today's drop was actually the result of one person selling about 100,000 weapon tokens all in one go. So that caused about a 25% drop in the price. However, we've seen dozens of buy orders come out to defend that area below $2. So this is very much a support level right through here. And my opinion is that we could see another day or two of consolidation, but I would expect over the next week or two for that move back up toward the $4 resistance area. Now, one of the reasons I am so bullish here, which I mentioned in my recent video, is that they are coming out with staking soon. They're just waiting on an audit to complete and also for legal to give the green light, which could be a week from now. It could be 2 weeks from now. All I know is that it's coming soon, the audit. I checked today, the audit's about 84% complete. So it is very, very close. The reason it's going to be such a big catalyst is because they delayed staking due to the audit. That was right around December 23rd. So what they decided to do was accumulate rewards since December 23rd up to when they launched staking. But they're accruing those rewards at an increased rate of 3%. So it's basically 3% of daily volume for every day between December 23rd and when staking launches, on top of the standard 2% of daily volume going forward after that. So there's going to be a massive increase in staking rewards for, let's say, this first like 6 or 7 weeks, which I think is going to create a major draw for people to want to get into this, to stake the token. And they're also not going to want to sell because they're going to be making those increased rewards. So on the one hand, you're going to have people buying, so you're going to have a lot of demand. And on the other, you're going to have very low supply because people are not going to be wanting to sell. In my opinion, that takes this market up toward $10 plus once staking launches. So as always, that's just my opinion. It's not financial advice, and it's kind of backed up too by the chart. So I talked about this recently as well, but if you use a objective from this low down here up to the resistance, you get approximately 500%. All right, so this was a 500% gain. And if you do the same thing from a breakout level up here just below $4, okay, so 500% higher would put the market somewhere up around $22. All right, so somewhere up around $20, I think that is a very reasonable target because it would give the project a market cap of about $200 million. Now, could it be $10 or about $100 million market cap? Absolutely. It could even be lower than that, but I think that a target like $10 or $20 over the coming weeks, or say this quarter, is pretty conservative in my opinion. So a lot going on here. They have staking coming out in the next few weeks, the full game later this quarter. And as always, guys, this is not sponsored. I've never been paid to do a video. I've never been paid to tweet. I just share with you guys what I'm doing. Whether you decide to buy or not is completely up to you. It's your decision, not financial advice. So lastly, I want to talk about Kori. This is the latest play to earn token that I mentioned. And by the way, both of these tokens are available on Uniswap. If you are interested, not financial advice, but if you do want to buy, they are available on Uniswap. All right, so this is a relatively new play to earn token, something that I first mentioned on Twitter right back here. So obviously it's had a massive gain since then. Recently, I believe it was up about 100%, but it's now flipped this area into support. And I know that a lot of people think that technical analysis doesn't work for microcaps. But if you look at the weapon chart that I just mentioned, and you look at this chart, especially the weapon chart though, there's no denying that technicals still play a role. Can they fail? Absolutely, especially with microcaps because the volume is lower. But anytime people are involved in a market and there's a chart for it, technical analysis is going to play a role. Does it tell the future? No. Will it help you identify support and resistance? Yes. All right, so with that out of the way, guys, this has flipped this area right around $6.5 million market cap to support, okay? So right now the market's sitting right around a $6.8 million market cap. And as I mentioned recently, guys, they did sign AAA concept artist Shadi Safadi to work on their concept art, which is a huge deal. So they also announced recently that they were signing with a game developer this week. Now, they haven't announced that yet, but I would imagine over the next week or two, once we start getting some concept art from Safadi, we should also start to hear who that game developer is. And I think that's going to be a major catalyst for this project. Now, obviously, one of the reasons I think that is because you're not going to go and sign a AAA concept artist and then hire a cheap game developer. So we know whoever they signed with for the game development has to be on the same level as somebody like Shadi Safadi. So I think that's very exciting, especially when you look at a market cap below $7 million at the moment. Again, not financial advice, but this is something that I'm invested in. And they do actually have an AMA later today as well. So they're going to be doing weekly AMAs to keep everybody updated, which I think is a great idea. I love projects that do that. So you can check out their Twitter for more details on tonight's AMA. I believe it's at 9 p.m. Eastern. So not a whole lot to talk about with the chart, guys. I mean, obviously it's flipped this area to support, but overall, I personally think that this project, once they announce the game developer, once their concept artist starts coming out with artwork, then yeah, $20, $30 million, maybe $50 million this quarter is very doable, potentially even higher than that, okay? Because I also love the fact that it is a fair launch, no pre-sale, no team tokens, favorable tokenomics. The team has been third-party KYC'd, and also the fact that they're using X NFTs in their game, which is really the next iteration of NFTs. So that's really exciting as well. So again, early project, guys, high risk, high reward, not financial advice. And just know too that where other projects like Weapon are coming out with their game this quarter, this one is probably going to take quite a bit longer. Okay, I would imagine, sometime late 2022, if they do get it out this year, because it is a very new project. They're just now working on the concept art. So you're talking the better part of a year here probably to get the game right. Now, with that said, though, it doesn't mean that you can't see incredible returns from this token as the anticipation builds, especially when you start talking about AAA concept artists and also the announcement of a game developer. All right, guys, so I hope this helped. I know it was a lot to get through, but if you did enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also click the bell icon, smash that like button, and leave your comment below. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.